Um, how can I say? How can I know if the sound's working?
You have to take this, this,
This one?
this one. Ah,
Oh,
this is the.
no
Okay,
headphone.
sorry, sorry.
So probably it's working, right?
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
have to set up the.
Yeah, I think it is
¿Está
the.
funcionando el sonido? Sí, sí. It's
It's
working.
working.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm going to introduce you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hello. Uh, Welcome back to the presentation of the 8th edition of the International Festival of Indie Games, AZPLAY. We are now starting with the presentation of distortions made by Among Giants.
Yeah, it's us.
Yeah, so please.
Okay. Hey guys. First of all, sorry because my English is really, really bad. You guys don't want to even hear my Spanish because it's a nightmare. Uh, Chris is our programmer. He's from the United States, so he have a good English and he can help me.
Sure. Yep. Hey guys.
Okay, guys. So first of all, sorry, my cell phone is making noise. Okay, now it's good. First of all, I'm Thiago from Among Giants, and we make games as service. But we always had this dream to have 100% of our time dedicated to tutorial games for the adult public. And we gave our first step into this direction with the Distortions. Distortions are games that talks more about of the love of the process of making games than the love of finishing games. It is like our side of developers that never will die. So for start, let me show you a trailer. Okay, the sound's not working. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the music was really good in that part. Was something like dun, 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 dun. But yeah, we are really proud about our music since it's a game that talks about music, so it was a little bit important to play the music, but that's fine. But you guys can see it? It is showing? Fine, okay. So it is a game. The Distortions. It is a game that we like to call a psychodrama. It's like psychological with drama. It is musical. It is set in a surrealistic world. Distortions. It talks about how we terrorize our relationships and the ways that we find to suppress it. So in other words, it is talking about a gaming way. It is the same thing as you grab Shadow of Colossus, Silent Hill 2, and Zelda Ocarina of Time, and you're going to have a pie of distortions. Put these three together. So we follow the journey of this girl that have a lot of difficulty to express her feelings through words, so she uses music instead. So it is in a surrealistic world. And the idea of distortions is when you have some sort of relationship that didn't really work, and for some could be with anyone, with your family, with your lover, with your friend, and for some reason this relationship breaks and stops in a traumatic way. And after some time, you keep remember that, and this distortion starts to get more and more distorted. And after more time, it starts to get harder to remember what really happened, or what you came up with it, or what was true, or what was not. So we invite the players to put their relationships inside the game, and we do that creating blank space, so the player can fulfill this blank space with their own relationships. For example, we never talk about the reality or what happened with the girl. We are always working on this layer of memories and expectations, subjectiveness layer, so the player can put their own relationship inside the game. All the characters have masks, so the player can put any face behind those masks. And all the characters don't have names, so the player can put any names, and so on. We try to add this blank space as maximum as possible. So to have a better understanding about distortions, let me talk a little bit about the beginning. When we started distortions, we wanted to make something that was totally different from what you have on the market today, especially because it came from different areas. I came from movies, or writer came from literature, Our level designer comes from plastic art, and yeah, our programmer comes from games, but he's the only one. But we always have the same love in common, the love of gaming, of making games, and the love of design and experimentation. So we wanted to bring our reference into the game and try to make something different. For example, I brought a lot of reference from movies directors that I love, like David Lynch, Wes Anderson, Darren Aronofsky, movies like The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Where the Wild Things Are, Irish movie called Once. Another movie that is a huge reference for us is The Fountain from Darren. So, guys, I'm reading because I feel more safe since I don't talk in English. So, as you can imagine, music goes way beyond than just gameplay mechanics. With distortions, music is inside every inch part of production, every small layer of production. So we came up with something called the distortions concept. To explain, let me explain a little bit about the distortions concept. When you start the game, you used to have this cool band, and we have a lot of fun with it. Our music used to have some moments that was super slow and contemplative and beautiful, and other moments was super heavy with a lot of distortions in the air and tension. So you wanted to translate all these feelings that we have in our songs, but not just the feelings, the production process that you put to write the songs, and most especially the rhythm, and you translate that into the game. So we call that the distortions concept. So the first thing that we applied the distortions concept was the whole rhythm of the game. And we came up with something called nuances on gameplay. Of course, that we have our main core gameplay. It is a third-world exploration with music and violin too. But to have a better rhythm, we try to change that a little bit. Let me explain what I'm saying with the rhythm. It is something like, if you grab someone from other medias that don't play video games but consumes movies or literature to play any game that you want, almost like Shadow of Colossus is one of my preferred games from all time, and the person probably gonna play that and ride with the horse in that beautiful place and climb that creature and slice his head, and after some time he's gonna do the same thing on the second Colossus and then on the third, and then he's probably gonna say something like, okay, it's cool, but that's just it. I mean, what do you say, man? It's just it. You are climbing a huge creature that is sleeping for 1,000 years and killing it. But you know, guys, something is true. It's just it. Because games don't work too much with rhythm, like the other medias. Most of games just came with a mechanic, a main core gameplay, and it is the same mechanic till the end of the games. And the only difference, the mechanic starts to get harder and harder. So that was something that worried us in the beginning, and we wanted to try to solve with this nuance on gameplay. There's a main rule of game design that when you first start a game, you first need to come up with the main simple mechanic and the fun mechanic, and from that, like a tree branch, came the other things like narrative and gameplay and so on. We wanted to try something different. Before that came with the rhythm and music, and from the rhythm came the other stuff, like narrative. So for example, if the rhythm asks for some more slow and beautiful moments, like the music that we used to play with our band in the beginning, we changed the gameplay for something more first person, where you can look around and see all those beautiful places. If the rhythm asks for something more violent, with brutal, we changed the game for side-scrolling, where you can see the enemy chasing you, use more player skills. So if the rhythm asks for something with a more solitude feeling, we change the game for open world, like a Metroidvania style. And you keep changing that from time to time to have a better rhythm. Here are a few examples of how we changed that. Half-Life 2 did something like that. It was a first-person shooter with nuance, but we tried to make something bigger, in a more drastic way. So after we applied the distortions on the whole thing, we tried to apply the distortions concept on our main gameplay. Like I told you, our main gameplay, it is an open world exploration with the violin tool. And it is really simple. We wanted to make something that was a simple mechanic, but didn't start to get harder, but like the most games do, but wanted to be used in different ways and evolving for that direction. So the first mode, it is super simple, guys. It is just 4 inputs. And it is the same keys that are used to walk and jump. So when you press your mouse button, she grabs her violin, and the 4 keys of walk and jump turn into musical notes. So the first mode, it is the skill mode. In this mode, you need to find tablatures around the world. And when you find it, you learn a new skill. And you can use this skill at any moment, at any time, against the enemies, in the environment, or in the middle of cutscene. We don't care. We just want you to have fun. So you choose it, and when you choose the skill to perform, based on how well you perform the song, on how many notes you play it, you can make the same skill in a stronger way or in a weaker way. So, for example, if you're running from an enemy, you need to be fast. You just need to choose a barrier skill and play one note, and you can create a barrier to protect yourself and run away. The second mode is the free mode. On this mode, all the world of distortions is made of music. And if you know what you play, you can shape the world in any way that you want it. So in this mode, you can play any note without the skills restrictions. That's a hard word to say in English. The third mode is the play with your memory. This one resembles games like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. And using a dramatic moment, dramatic scenes, it is really beautiful. And the last one that the player learns, it is playing by ear or improvisation, where the player already have his own voice, and we just play a bass music, and he can improvise wherever he wants and go crazy with it. After that, we apply the distortions concept, the rhythmic concept, on the game design. So to have a better rhythm, because you are always worried with rhythm, we try to play with linear and open words. So if you need the history to go faster, we just change for a lot of linear gameplays, more walk simulator. If you wanted the history to be more slow and the player have more agents in the world, we change for open world exploration. We try to play with old game design schools and new game design school. As you know, the new game design school put arrows everywhere, took the player by the hand, show you everything that he needs to know, don't demand a lot from the player. But we love old games. Like one of our biggest inspiration is Another World from Eric Shahi. Another big reference is Riven, Myst, old point clicks. We love that. So other moments it demands way more from the player, like old school games. And not just talking about difficult, but I'm talking about demanding to learn to know more about music, demanding to know more about narrative and about the world, and so on, so the player can go on with the game. We applied the rhythm on the big picture, so for our game is divided into 3 huge parts. The first part is more linear and casual. The second part is way more hardcore and demands way more from the player. And the third part is my preferred one, is totally experimental and optional. All this in a 15-hour, in a huge campaign of 15 hours of gameplay. After that, we apply on the level design, the distortions concept, the rhythm. So before we wanted the game to have a video clip language, not movie language, not game language, but a video clip, because we love music. So before making the level, we always come up first with the music and rhythm, and from that, like a tree branch, we came with the other things from the level design. To have a better control over the rhythm, we created something called mirrored events. So if the player needs to see events to have a better rhythm, no matter where he is, he can go to that direction or that direction. The event can happen anywhere, so that's we call them mirrored events. We apply the story distortions concept on the narrative and storytelling. So the structure of our story is based on popular music structure. So, for example, if you guys here on the chorus one, it is like the climax of the first act. So we try to respect the popular music structure. We try to not use words, since it's a game that talks about music. We try to, all the history if was able to solve it with music and not words, we made that. So, for example, in the beginning of the game, she don't remember who she was or what she's doing in that place. And after some time, she met with some old memory of her, the masked guy, and they play together. The player play with him, and it is a really beautiful moment. In the end, she's crying, all emotive, and she just thinks, okay, now I remember who I was. And just that, we don't say anything about reality or what happened, because we wanted the player to fulfill those blank space. After that, when the player starts to find more and more tablatures and more notes and more music and learn more about music, she starts to remember more and more who she was. So we applied that on music. All the world of distortion is made of music and sounds. Everything have tags sounded. So, for example, if you are on the main road, you listen to some tiny bells. If you are inside some crazy cave, you listen to a crazy violin. And after some time, the player starts to make a map of sounds inside his head, and he knows where he is just using the sound. And not just that, use the sounds for enemies, for different sounds for enemies, for kind of items, for anything. So it's really cool to see the players in the end of the game. They know everything just using the sound. all the characters are represented by an instrument, a different instrument. So, for example, the girl is represented by a violin, the masked one is represented by acoustic guitar, another character called the writer is represented by harmonica, and when they talk, like the masked one, you don't hear words, but you hear his instrument. It's like when he talks, you just hear acoustic guitar playing, and all the words show up on the environment. We have licensed music and autorial music. Why that? Because when you start Distortion, we made a huge research about the rhythm and music that you wanted the game to have, and we managed to license all these bands. So there are bands from Scotland, from United States, from Brazil, and they are inside the game. And in the beginning of the game, when the player don't have his own voice and the girl don't have her own voice, we play these licensed songs. But in the end, when the player learns the improvisation, she have her own voice, we play the autorial songs. We applied the distortions rhythm on the production. So our programmer created something called distortion tools on top of a dead engine that is called C4 engine. And this tool is awesome, amazing to make games like the ones that we did that work so much with pacing and rhythm. We won a lot of awards already. We start show our game in June, and since June, we were already 15 awards on our nominates. And we try to apply the distortions concept and rhythm music on the way we behave. We try to behave like a punk rock band. I mean, try to break the rules, do it yourself, always having fun with friends, never be a heavy process. We are making this game for 8 years already, and we are kind of sad to finish it and deliver. We are just finishing because we need to pay our bills. But like I told you in the beginning of the presentation, it's a game that talks more about the love of the process of making a game and not finishing. If it was possible, we wanted to be making this game for more 10 years. And I think that's it, guys. Thanks. Do you like it? Okay. Do you have any question? Okay, here. Nice.
Should I speak loud or microphone?
There's a microphone coming over there.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's not good that you couldn't put the sound because that creates the whole sort of passion for the game, I think, from the behavior, from the player's behavior. But I have a few questions. First of all is, you mentioned that you were being influenced by filmmakers, and you mentioned Lynch, you mentioned The Unbearable Lightness of Being, or The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that one with Jim Carrey. Could you specify mainly the elements that were influenced by those?
Yep, sure.
And my second question is, how do you plan? Did you raise funds through self-investments, or did you have external sources? Are you still looking for more serious to raise funds on this game?
Okay, the first question, it is, for example, Wes Anderson, a huge reference. You can see all his fonts, composition that he used, the color, like the purple and the yellow. Oh, it's not showing nice. I'm just looking here. I thought that was showing over there. So show all the yellow and purple and the fonts that we're using, all the composition style. Like Darren Aronofsky and the movie The Fountain have a really, really beautiful structure of movie based on music, and we try to emulate that as well. Like the music, for example, in The Fountain in our game, we have a beautiful music that just starts to play really slow in the beginning with just a few instruments, and when the character starts to learn more and more about himself, the music starts to grow, and the music just finishing in the end of the movie, like ours in the end of the game. Like for the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, our game talks about discuss the same theme, the same thing. Like, remember that scene in the Eternal Sunshine where the house is collapsing and he wants to think, oh, if I did something different. So our game it starts on that point. If you have a memory and you are tired of that memory and start to distort it, and you think, oh, if I start to imagine how thing was, and from the movies like Where the White Things Are, we try to grab all the feeling of the indie music they use on the movie, and you try to translate into the feeling that you wanted to have in the game, the adventure feeling. But what was our biggest influence was the rhythm. So we are we love movies and how they catch the attention of the spectator. So we wanted to try to make something in games, since people don't really worry with people that are not gaming and play video games. So we wanted someone that don't play video games play, and people that play the same game and say, whoa, that's nice. I'm following. And I didn't remember your second question.
So I was wondering, because you mentioned, we talked downstairs, that you would like to self-publish, which I think it's it's a very good endeavor because you believe in your game, and let's see what happens. But how have you raised money? Are you still looking to raise money?
Yeah. It is all self-publishing. We pay our bills with service games, so we make games for clients that search for us. But from a year or 2 years from now, we are full-time on Distortions, just because it is our dream, and we really wanted to make more games like Distortions that are autorial for public adult hardcore, that talks more about music, not just as mechanics, but music is the whole thing, the whole concept of production, and try to translate the feeling that people that play music with a band. It is one of the best things in the world when you play with a band or with someone, and try to translate that into the games.
Thank you.
Any more? Nice. Thanks, guys. And sorry about the music that I didn't play.
Jafo has fled, so we are going with the next presentation. It's the turn of Jonas Byrensen, creative director in Bedtime Digital.
No. I can just. Well. It is running.
Yes, you have it.
Yeah. It's just that yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Does this work? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here to talk about our game Figment. First off, Figment is a surreal, hand-painted adventure game set inside the mind of a person. So at the core, it's a game about deep diving into the subconsciousness and helping this mind overcome a traumatic experience. But first, I'm going to talk a bit about myself and the team behind the game. We call it Bedtime Digital Games. We're a Danish indie developer, have existed since 2011. And the company was kind of built around this game and its spiritual predecessor called Back to Bed. Back to Bed had a lot of success award-wise and also on different platforms. And it kind of helped us build the company with investors and stuff like that. And they were also interested in taking what we built with that game to the next level, which turned out to be our game Figment. To describe the company in short would be a company that specializes in building very unique game worlds and then experimenting with gameplay in those game worlds. As I said, my name is Jonas. I'm the co-founder of the company, and I'm the creative director. So I'm supposed to be the man with the plan, but that goes up and down. Yes, as mentioned, Figment is a game that takes place inside my human mind, and with a very unique game world, hand-painted and built in a unique way. So for you to understand what I'm talking about, I would like to show you the launch trailer for the game, and then I think you'll have a much better idea of the points that I'm going to talk about afterwards. Because we are going to cover a lot. We're nominated in almost all the categories, so I try to squeeze everything in here. But I hope you enjoy. Hope that sounds.
What the heck happened here? Trauma in the conscious mind. The nightmares have come unconfined. They've seized our lands without remorse. We hide in fear behind closed doors.
Something's totally messed up in the mind. We need you back, Dusty.
We've got a nightmare to end. So a few nightmares escaped the game. You're scared, huh? You have been unneeded for long, my friend, but the mind now needs your aid again.
Visitors are delightfully inconvenient.
Defeating a nightmare, I'll confess, should put an end to all this mess.
Blood and filth will soon prevail. Your screams of pain will be of no avail. Your bowels contract, you swell with gas. One big pot of breath will be your last.
Who the heck was that?
Let's find out.
Run all you want, Fartface. We're coming to get you.
There are fears to fight, and a hero never sleeps.
Look at this place! The trauma's already taking root!
I'm saving my step for kicking your butt.
So hold on, and soon comes the day. There are sights you must see to believe them.
Get up there and catch him.
Hold on, I might be far away, but I know I will see you again.
Yes. So what you just saw there was our launch trailer for the game that is already out on Steam, GOG, and a lot of other smaller PC stores. As I mentioned, it's an adventure game that mixes in puzzles and action and musical elements. A lot of the singing you could hear in the trailer is the big bosses in the game that kind of represent different aspects of human fear. That you have to defeat before they kind of like paralyzing the mind with the different themes. So it's a lot of mixing in different kinds of gameplay, but mostly on the explorations and the puzzles, and then the action kind of gives a different pacing. If you just completed a very difficult puzzle, it's a nice thing to go into an action piece afterwards to kind of unwind, and vice versa. If you just win in a stressful action piece, then it's good to unwind with something where you can take your time to figure something out. The story is very multi-layered. We kind of aimed for something along the lines of a Pixar movie. in that the core story is about this character called Dusty and his friend Piper that live inside the mind of a person. And he's kind of like the mind's courage. Each of the characters you meet inside the mind represents one of the voices in our head. So you can get to talk to like the voice of order, the voice of chaos, the pyromanic voice. You're not supposed to listen to him, but he is in there. And they just go through the mind and defeat these nightmare creatures. But at a deeper level, this is a story about a person who's experienced something, and like something horrible, and how his mind is built up is made up of the experiences he's had through his life and what he's experiencing right now. So there is a deeper story there that more experienced adult gamers will get, while younger players can just play the game and enjoy the heroic journey of Dusty, while there is something else there for example, the parents. One of the unique things is that it's handcrafted aesthetics all the way through. Everything is painted by hand, shadows and light and stuff like that is done by hand. And then we use a locked orthographic camera to make it appear kind of like a surreal painting and a diorama. Every frame should kind of look like something you would want to put up on the wall. And then added to that, we use a lot of dynamic music. When you get closer to certain objects or do something in the mind, the background music will change according to that. And then, of course, the musical elements, where the big baddies sing their evil plans to you and have kind of the theme interwoven into the musical genre that they use. Yes, but let's journey a bit into the mind and how it's made up and built, and some of the ideas we used for creating this world. As an example, we all know we have all heard the theory about, right-minded, left-minded people, some being creative, some being more logical. And it's an idea that's kind of stuck in all our perceptions. It isn't true. I researched this, but we still went with it for the game because people can relate to it. So through the game, you will go in, for example, into the creative part of the mind that's filled with all the things that you often relate to being creative. So music, paintings, the ability to fly and soar through things. So it's a very green and verdant place, filled with a lot of musical elements. But at the same time, this nightmare creature called the Plague, you saw him with the plague mask in the trailer, has kind of went in here and started to gunk up stuff and rot all the plants. So we're chasing after him in this world through some very, very musical puzzles and trying to avoid his fart bombs and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's also a logical side to the mind. It's a place we call Clockwork Town, and it's filled more with gears and clockworks, machines, to represent that this is the part of the mind that kind of keep tracks of time, plans, your ability to think straight. And in here, some of you maybe can see there's spider webs here and there. So there's of course a spider nightmare in here that we have to chase down. Kind of represent the idea that if your mind is filled with fear, you can't think straight, you can't deduce problems. So everything like that is kind of like inspired by common themes in basic psychology. We even deep dived into reading about human fear. Actually found out that there isn't that many different kinds of fear. We just see them differently, but they're very basically the same. So try to use that research as the inspirations for our big enemies in the game. But some of the unique elements in these worlds is also that this mind that we're inside is actually a very detailed person that we, as the developers, have made. This person, who is a he, has a very, very detailed background, a job, a family, all those kind of things. And those things kind of gave us inspiration to what is inside his mind. And players that actually go after and chase all the small hidden things in the game, like collectibles, knock on all the doors where voices will speak to you, you kind of start piecing together who this person is, and a lot of the things you experience in the game will make a lot more sense. Again, harking back to the multi-layered storytelling. Yes. Now that you know a bit about the game and understand what it's about, I'll try to go more into details about how the process and some of the choices we made in building it and how some of the challenges. First off, gameplay. Like I said, we're mixing a lot of exploration and puzzles and action. But one of the unique things is that we wanted it to be in a persistent setting, meaning that if you come back to something you already solved, it should stay the way it was when you left it. So the entire game and the entire game world is actually persistent. You can come back and maybe now you know something new or have picked up something that would now give you access to some place you couldn't get through before, or get access to a collectible, for example. To achieve this, we built something we call the ping system. It's just a very, very custom-made visual scripting tool that allowed designers, level designers, and even art people to make stuff without having to always go and talk with programmers. So we had a wide variety of tools and custom setups in there that we could keep using in different ways. It was both a smart thing and a dumb thing, being honest, because nowadays you can get a lot of other tools that could help you do that. But at the time we started production, it wasn't that widespread, so we built one ourselves. But I definitely think going with something akin to this in the future is something we're going to do, because it helped a lot having a lot of people with not that many technical skills still being able to try out building puzzles and events and stuff like that. When we talk about mixing puzzles and action, it was a lot about making the mechanics for the enemies very clear, almost puzzle-like, in that once you see through how they try to stop you, you just have to figure out doing the right thing. So it's not that skill-based in a lot of the action. It's more about figuring out their patterns and then turning it back on themselves in that way. The exploration part was very much about telling a lot of small stories. As I mentioned, there's collectibles in the game, there's doors you can knock on, and these characters that are hiding in here will tell you stuff. And it's all a matter of creating this idea of a persistent world where there are other people than you in it, and also when you're done with the game, that this mind, this world inside the mind of a person will keep existing. It's not only there for this game, and it allowed us to get a lot of depth into the setting, but it also allowed some of the people in the office to be very silly because we needed a lot of voices for these doors. We did a lot of testing and went to a lot of events. What you see in the picture is PAX West from this year, where we had a big booth, but we've been doing conventions like PAX for 2 years with the game. So it's always about testing how the users out there actually, respond to the game, finding out that the musical parts really, really work. So gotta add more of those if the combat was too heavy and stuff like that. But just keep getting some feedback on the game. We're doing that for a lot of time. With the art and visuals, as mentioned, the goal was to create like this picturesque world that would fit in an art frame, something that you would want to print out and put up on your wall back home or on T-shirts and stuff like that. So we went with a hand-drawn aesthetic. We used that from our last games as well. All of our artists in the company have what you would call analog backgrounds as well, experience in oil paintings or hand-drawn comics and stuff like that. So using their experience was a cool thing. But that meant mixing in a lot of 2D and 3D with a locked camera. So if we moved the camera just a bit in the game, everything would screw up and look out of alignment. So it was both a challenge, but also something that allowed for us to use their experience in an analog way, and kind of just approach every scene as like building dioramas in real life. One of the big challenges there, and I would really warn anybody trying to do this again, is light and shadows. Doing that entirely by hand in a game like this, and it is like a 5 to 6 hour single player game, will take you a buttload of time and will stress out your art team to the point of where they will actually hate you. But we had to do that because as mentioned, if we just screwed the camera a little bit, everything would look out of alignment. So we couldn't use any automatic shadows from Unity, stuff like that. But it ended up looking very good, but it was a chore. Audio and voice acting. Funny thing is that when we started thinking about this game back years ago, I think the first idea for this game came out in my mind in a flight back from the States 5 years ago. Music wasn't that big a part of it because none of the members on the team at that point was musicians or audio people. We just knew we wanted good music in there, but not really much more than that. But we recruited a guy to the team by pure chance with his old company going bankrupt, and he wanted to work with us. And he's kind of like a weird audio indie music madman that just went in and said, "Let me try some stuff." And we gave him some weeks to just experiment with the sound, and then he came up with this idea of doing a musical game. And having all the big enemies sing. The Plague Nightmare, that's one of the favorites for the fans, is actually that guy, Nils. And it just worked. So that also meant that since we were going to do fully voice acted, and he wanted this dynamic soundscape in the different worlds, that we had to do all audio in-house, because it was essential. All the audio is connected up on gameplay elements and where you are in the game. And we needed to be able to change words used in the musical and timings and everything so it fit the mechanics. Meant it took a lot of energy, but I don't think we could have achieved this kind of soundscape in the game without having to do everything in ourselves. And it was also fun working with different indie musicians for the big enemies, finding somebody who was like, oh, we need somebody who's a bit country metal for one of them. Oh, I know one guy, and then approaching them and asking them if they could want to voice act the game, and most of them was very interested in doing it. So that has been a fun experience. Lastly, the future for the game. As mentioned, it's out on most PC platforms and have gotten some very, very good reviews from a lot of the big sites, or have some very good awards as well. But we're not done with the game. We really want to get it out on consoles as well. So back home, they're working on a Switch version right now, hopefully getting it out as close to Christmas as we can. But we never know with all the supporting stuff. And then, of course, the other platforms as fast as we can after that. I really think it will look very good on a TV screen. And I hope it's a game that people can, play together, since it's such a layered storytelling, and enjoy solving the puzzles and just enjoy the music together. That was what I had. If any of you have any questions, you're more than welcome. Nope. I think that's it then.
Hello everyone. Half is still gone, so we are actually introducing the presentations of this official section. Next in the lineup, we have the pleasure to listen and to have here the creator of Forgotten Annie, Alfred Nguyen, CEO of Throughline Games. Please welcome.
Yeah, I think so. I have some stuff on the USB stick. I hope that's okay.
Yep.
And it's just a little bit of things. Where have we got this? There you go. So how does this work? How do I get it on the screen eventually? I just have on the USB stick. Right. Yeah. And then how do I get it? How do we play that? Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Hello. So you might have been expecting a short Asian guy. I'm a tall white guy. So Alfred is the director of the game, and I am the art director of the game. And since we were nominated in the visual arts category, we thought it more logical that I did this. So that's me, and for Forgotten Anne, and I am basically just going to show you a little bit of gameplay from the game and some levels, and talk about a little bit about the game. We're still making it, and like yesterday I was in the office making it, so that's where I put my focus right now. This is Forgotten Anne. It's a 2D platformer. Can you even see what's going on there? I hope you can. And it's what we like to call it a seamless cinematic adventure, which means just a pretty linear story with dialogue elements in it, with sort of branching dialogue, but in general like one story. And we aim for like no loading and no like seamless transitions between the cutscenes and the actual game. So as much as possible, we've tried to make a side-scrolling animation movie, really. And here she is using her arca. So, Forgotten this game. Let's see if we can just get, because maybe some of you have seen this in the demo downstairs. So the game is about Anne and Bonku, the angry guy in the picture here. And they have landed in this realm of forgotten things. So something happened to them, and they might have been forgotten by the world. And everything that is forgotten in the real world will somehow end up in this realm. But only these two human beings have ended up here. And the game is sort of Anne's story, and the like her figuring out what and why they are here. So, in conjunction with the seamless cinematicness of it, we decided that you cannot die in the game. So again, just for the story to flow, everything that you do is sort of just in accordance with the, let's say, with the diegetics of the game. And we have further to sort of to build on that. We're trying to reach a balance between the story and the visuals, because again, with the cinematicness of it, so a big focus on the anime visuals of it, and then of course some platforming. This is a 2D platformer in a sense, but all this platforming, we try to keep it diegetic, and this has been one of the big challenges in sort of coming up with the gameplay story sort of merge, right? We felt like we couldn't just make platforms for the sake of platforming. Everything should, as much as possible, try to tell something about the world in which Anne is in. So I come from a background in animation movies, and that's why I guess I was chosen for this project. And the base game, or the first layer that you see here is this just straight up 2D platformer where you can only jump and grab things and interact with things like on a physical level. Again to the diegetics of it that Anne cannot in the real world act upon things beyond her reach. And again with the animations also, we try to, as much as possible, make it a realistic approach to your navigation of the terrain. And then on top of that, as a second world, as a second layer, we have the what we call Animavision. Oh, sorry. And that is, wow, this is a long movie, so it's there we go, Animavision. And this is sort of almost more like your point and click thing. So you get like an extended reach. And again, we did this because it seemed more realistic that you would in this Zen like state with your magic arcade device on your wrist, that you could reach things far away to try and give the player more agency in the world, because it would be hard for us to have her climb even more or fly even more around. So also this Animavision, Anima World, functions as sort of to me at least, as some kind of a palette cleanser. So it's a constant thing throughout the game, and it's this pretty clean world of just like a fog world, which can be sort of comforting, I think. So let's see. And further to the notion of the cinematicness of it, we've tried to make this this camera that feels directed, but is still under, as much as possible, under your control. In order to aid the player in what they are supposed to do in the game, but also to get that sense of a movie-like state. Right, the camera has a kind of personality. And for the animations, we chose to go with sprite animation, again to harken to real animation movies, which turned out to be quite a challenge, but an interesting one, and one I think in line with the rest of the visuals of the game. But we have wow, okay. Gotta zoom out. So this is just one of the sprite sheets. I maybe should have opened that with another guy. Whoop. Oh no, it's in Spanish. All right. It'll only open in Paint. Fine. I can draw on this then. Yay! Okay, well, that's going to be a problem for the other pictures. Anyways, this is just one sprite sheet, right? So we had to find a way. No, I don't want to. No. Save that. So we have to find a way of getting these 2D animated sprite animation clips to work in this dynamic world, and that's so she's really mixing in between being an animation clip and then being a kinematic object in the world, and it's that's a challenge, but I think for a lot of our instances we've managed quite well. And the entire we built this in Unity, and the entire thing is built with these digital hand painted sprites from my side, the backgrounds as well. And I let's see here. I start by I'm a bit afraid of the paint now, so let's just see if I can, because it won't. So we started out with sort of sketches of the thing, and then to a more definite sketch. This is the place outside Anne's house. It's okay. You won't let me. Fine. What? No, it's fine. There isn't a program. I saw it like that. You can only open it in Paint, right? You don't. Do you have another picture viewer? I guess this is Windows something. Can we?
Right button.
And then.
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Choose another.
Yeah. More. Yeah. Doesn't it have like just window picture viewer? No, not really.
No.
Okay.
No, all in Paint.
Yes, it's fine. It's fine. I'll do live sketching instead. Anyways, let's see here. Yeah. So that's that, and then this guy. So again, I after we finish a sketch for the level, I make this sort of finished line work sketch, and then we will test out the level, and we tested out the level in this sketchy version, and then I'll make individual sprites, like of all the different things, and then in Unity I'll assemble that into the final level using a lot of parallaxing. How can I get around this? No, I can't. So you see it here. Nope. So this is the watchtower that we're in right now. It's just a big picture of the level. Yeah. I think that's it pretty much. So let's see. Nah. No saving of the thing. Yeah, that would be it. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So next on stage is a company from Germany, Serious Brothers and Jens Isanse with a game called Imagine Earth.
So, one moment, please. Yeah, that would be fine. Thanks.
Check the configuration of the sound card because you connect the HDMI. You need to use.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we there? I'm not sure if it is the right audio now. So, okay.
This one.
This?
This one.
Okay, wonderful. Activate.
The great corporations start expanding into the open space.
Can you see it already? Wonderful. So, welcome everybody. I want to show you our game project Imagine Earth today. It's made by Serious Brothers, which basically consists of Martin Warnschaffe, the guy who's programming all this stuff, and me, Jens Isanse. And we are working on this game for several years now. I want to start by showing you the trailer so you know what I'm talking about all the time, and then I go into details about game mechanics and gameplay features. So I have to say I will get a professional voiceover soon, but you will get the idea what's happening in the game, I think.
After exploiting the rich of the world, the great corporations start expanding into the open space. As a space colony manager, your job is to explore and to populate distant worlds. Build up thriving and profitable colonies on a global scale. Raise great cities from the ground and satisfy their appetite for resources by building power plants, farms and factories. produce goods and sell them to the space traders. Do research for renewable energy sources and develop sustainable production lines to avoid overgrowth and climate collapse of your new homeworld. Deal with whole planetary ecosystems and their natural limitations on fossil resources and environmental resilience. Dig for Edian crystals, pacify riots, who exist and trade with natives, alien investors, and hostile colonies. Get ready for all sorts of disasters. Can you prevent tremendous desolation? And lead your colony into wealth and prosperity instead? Then we got the perfect job for you. Apply now as a space colony manager at Imagine Earth Limited. So that was a fast-forward feature show on all that we have in the game. Maybe I can explain it in more detail now. So that slide we already had. What you see is a global build-up simulation game. There's a colony management skills that are asked from the player. There are real-time strategy elements as well in this game. It's nicely combining all, these different things in a very much unique way, as I would like to say. The idea of this game, it was born quite some time ago now, out of putting the topic of the concerning and urgent matter of global warming into an intriguing and motivating gameplay. That was actually where we started, and then we came up with this global theme where the player is about to build his own colony, his own civilization on other planets, and will be facing similar issues and problems as on Earth. So what he's basically doing after he landed his settlement capsule, which is then expanded into a city district, what we can see here with these people icon on it, he is about to produce resources and supply the colonists with goods, food, and energy. These are the main resource types in the game, and it's always about balancing production and consumption, so the colony grows in the most efficient and profitable way. Because you're an employee of a intergalactic corporation, you got to stay up with all these efficiency matters. Yeah, you have to take care of a build radius around your city center as well, which is expanded by growing your city, leveling it up, and then you have more space to build on. And so you must very much look out for which construct works best, and so on. This makes the game its strategic puzzle as well, where you have to always look which influences which constructs also have onto each other. So the coal power plant, for example, it is reducing life quality in this city district here, and over there the forest is of course raising the productivity of the sawmill, and so on. So the cattle breeding is fertilizing the farm, and the farm is then feeding the cattle. So there are positive and negative influences on all these constructs that we have. And you have to take care of several kinds of
ground and field types there are in the game. So fertile fields, of course, but there are gas deposits and coal and iron deposits in the ground, which also have positive and negative effects on all these buildings. So we already have up to 40 units for all of these resources to be produced, and several kinds of districts in the game. Yeah, what else to say? Okay, here is the development screen where you can develop these technologies. You can develop over 18 upgrades, individual ones, to make all of these buildings in their special way more efficient or more sustainable, which means less pollutive in a way. So that's handled here. Overproduction is a topic. It is almost as bad as undersupplying your colony. So you can store overproduction, and then you can trade it to space merchants. Space merchants come around when you have built warehouses where your stuff is stored, and you have built spaceports where they can land. And then they are buying your stuff, and they are bringing other items and equipment for your colony as well. So, for example, here's an energy shield against meteoroid showers. Bombs can be used to get rid of mountains and so on. And scanners, for example, are available for discovering new resource fields and so on. So there are special resources as well that need to be harvested with these drones that then bring it into the warehouses. So mining is a topic, and exploiting the planet as well. And then you have workshop constructs where you can, with these special resources, then craft these items and the equipment that you don't want to buy because sometimes it's too expensive or whatever. Yeah, there's, for example, gold, lithium, titanium. These Ideon crystals have a special value in the game because they are enabling this kind of space travel that makes the whole capitalism in space thing going. But there are also chemicals that you need to extract from corals or these nitro pumpkins and so on. So there's a lot to do in the game, and to make this accessible to the player or easy to learn, we made a fully playable campaign that is story-based. So 8 planets in this galaxy that you play and learn more and more challenges, and all these features get explained one after another. To make this interesting, we developed a certain set of individual characters that are part of you and your way of becoming a more skillful colony manager and raising in the corporation, and then finally taking over this galaxy as your personal job setup or management contract. So these are some of the dudes we have in the game, some alien guys, and the central crew of your corporation, which are following you and advising you the whole way. So I have them made up all with individual emotions, and they are telling you in this kind of window downstairs, the message panel, whatever is happening and whatever they think about it, and so on. Yeah, to come back to the central topic of the game, this is a world how it looks like when up to 5 corporations get engaged in exploiting it at the same time, and you most likely want to be a sustainable company, but still you are in this dynamic of everybody wants to grow faster than the others, overcome them. Then stock trading becomes a topic. So you can always sell shares of your company, as you see on the upper left, to finance your operation, to expand faster, and you can buy up the shares of other companies. So when you do that, you you get a share of their profits when they expand, or you can even take over some cities from them when you have bought enough shares. So the competition is also a game mode where you fight for victory points, which are given to you for several achievements in expanding your colony. So the company which have first then got a certain number of victory points gets the contract to manage the whole planet, and the others are out. That's basically how this works. There's a free play mode as well, where you can totally free choose how to develop the fate of your new home planet. So in this growth dynamic, in this capitalistic brawl of companies or economic warfare, if you what you could also call it, there's local pollution coming from mostly the pollutive factories and fossil power plants and so on, playing a major role in the game and reducing the yield of farms and so on. But there's exhaust emissions by all these constructs as well. And here we have a game mechanic called emission levy that we try to establish on Earth as well, where pollutive companies have to pay for more sustainably managing companies. So otherwise the sustainable way wouldn't be a strategic option. So there's a climate simulation behind all of this, and there are these polar caps of ice which can melt when global warming is happening, and then the sea levels are rising. So there are natural catastrophes increasing, like also tornadoes, wildfires, and land desertification, which are also increasing with this nature dynamic of global warming. And then while everybody is competing against each other, they are working together in destroying the basis of their profits, actually. So there is at some point the need to use other techniques or change to sustainable energy production, cooperate with others, and so on. It's an open game, actually. But to prevent this, you can start researching upgrades which will make your buildings more sustainable or more efficient, so less pollutive and so on. And you have also the option to freely develop your research tree here for useful tools and stuff that it is offering. We have a procedural planet generator, but you can also predefine how much land mass there should be on planets, so there's endless challenges for players who like to play on. So far it's only AI you can play against with. Oh, that was off topic right now. Here's the meter of polar ice you can predefine, so that says how much the planet will be, how much it will be flooded in case of global warming and so on. You can predefine the temperature and various kinds of biomes and other game elements that will happen in this round of gameplay. Yeah, there's also sandbox mode where you can really have a game level editor, and you can store and share the planets you have created as well. So last but not least, there's also a sense of tower defense mechanics in the game. So you're building these towers to increase your build radius as well, and to secure your borders against other players or companies that are trying to take your land. And you can have upgrades like these laser cannons also against asteroid strikes, but as well these pulse cannons against these Borg-like simulators, drones that come around later and trying to assimilate, take over your base. So I'm guessing this was pretty much enough to talk about the game. There's a complex profile system wrapping up all the player's progress, his high scores in missions, his research development, his playthrough percentage, and also all the achievements that he can go for. Yeah. Okay, I had some more sheets about art stuff in the game that I did, but I'm pretty much through with explaining, and if any questions are coming up, I would like to answer, but otherwise I would be finished, done with this. Thanks.
Okay, let's go on with the last presentation this morning. It will be the game Night Out. Please, Nikki and Dennis, come to stage.
Ja, tror jeg er fint. Nej, hvad laver den? Ja, gør. Okay. Hello. My name is Nikki, and this is Dennis, and we are from Second Studio, and we'd like to present Night Out for you guys. Thank you so much for having us here and for letting us present. So yeah, I am the creative director and also game director. We are kind of sharing that role. And Dennis is technical director and also game director. And we have a small studio in Denmark, and we're actually just the two of us working on games. Mainly we are also an outsourcing company, so we do just like graphics for other game companies. These are some of our partners on the project. So because we are so few in the studio, just the two of us, we kind of need someone to take care of other parts of the project. So we have Random Dragon Games. They help us out with online multiplayer. And then we have Mike Rasnick. He's doing the music for the game. And Fig. They are sort of a crowdfunding company, sort of like Kickstarter, but also with crowd investment. If you don't know about it, but we did a crowdfunding campaign with our game Night Out through that, and they sort of help us out with promotion and stuff like that. Yeah, so just to talk about what we normally do, we do a lot of 3D graphics for other companies. So 3D is sort of our main focus and sort of our force. If we have to choose something, so we had done some productions for Disney and Kiloo and those kind of companies before. Yeah, so we'll just show a short trailer of the project. It's sort of like a bit old trailer, but it shows some of the gameplay. Alright, cool. So what you saw there was sort of the core gameplay, in which it's sort of like a party game, or what you can call like a couch co-op game. So you can play 1 against 1 or 2 against 2. And we're also working on an arcade mode where you can get to play against waves of enemies coming towards your castle. But in the core gameplay, you build up a castle in the beginning of the game. You have like a timer and a set amount of cash that you can use to build up this castle from different types of bricks, and then you can outfit your castle with guns, cannons, and ballistas, and other types of weapons. It's targeted towards the whole family, so you should be able to play it with whoever you want. We try to keep it to cartoon violence, although it's pretty fun to make it very exaggerated. And there's a lot of customization in there as well. We're planning on doing more of that stuff, so you can sort of get the sense and feeling that you're creating your own castle and customizing your own little knight. Yeah. So the core of the gameplay is that you sort of have to. I don't know if we should play the film first. Yeah, let's do that. But the game is also featured downstairs, so you can go down and try it out for yourself sometime. But it's really fun to going to events like these and sort of seeing how other people play the game, because there's so many strategies that you can utilize in the game, the way that we build it, and the way that you can customize your castle and try out different techniques, different combinations. We've seen a lot of really creative plays, and people have a lot of fun with it. And it's just really intense all the time, because the core of the gameplay and the goal is to get to your opponent's king and beat him. So there's always this tension going back and forth between the castles and trying to get to him. So, and there's when you fight, you only need to get hit once, then you die, but you respawn after 2 to 3 seconds. So there's a lot of repeating game loops that just keeps you sort of focused on the game. Yeah, I think that's right. So the game is built around a rock paper scissors approach. So all there's like different sort of walls that you can build. So you can build like regular stone walls that are really good against heavy artillery, but you can also build rubber walls that can deflect cannonballs. And people use these in a very tactical manner, where you can get cannonballs to bounce on these walls and hit a target that you want. But then again, these rubber walls can be burned by fire arrows. So there's this, this approach to everything. So you really have to think about that when you build the castle. And then we have this very action-packed gameplay where you control your little knight, and we are working a lot on that gameplay aspect at the moment. So you'll be able to block with your shield, and you can slash your sword in different directions. And it's sort of reminiscent of games like games like Towerfall or Samurai Gun, for example. Very twitch-based reactions that you have to use. So we built the game around this very simple core, and it's it sort of came out of the inspiration that how it felt to build Lego castles with your siblings or your friends when you were very young. If you've ever tried that before, like building little castles and destroying them, that's just really fun. That's sort of the inspiration. So to understand the game better, it should be mentioned that where we came from, because we have before tried to develop a game that was very narrative based, and it took us a long time, and we actually went into that into a crowdfunding campaign with that as well. But it took us 3 years to get to that, and then it failed. So after that, we really thought about trying to learn from that and not make those mistakes again. And what we learned from that was it took so much time last time to come up with a gameplay that was fun to play, or it took a long time of testing to get to there. So this other approach was to just build a really fast prototype in only about a week and see if it was fun or not. And luckily it was. The gameplay is really scalable. So every time that we add stuff, when we add new weapons or traps or stuff like that, it just becomes more and more fun. So we are just implementing more and more stuff now.
Yes, so I will take over. We have only been working on the game for about a year, and we started back in January, where we came up with the idea and brainstormed. quite fast. We did a prototype, and we worked on that for 1 month. I'll see if I can make this work. I guess I'm not friends with YouTube today. Yes. So this is like the first thing that we ever showed, and as you can see, it changed a lot since then. It was about 2 months after we did the crowdfunding campaign, which was luckily successful, and we got some stretch goals as well to keep expanding on the game. Initially, it was the idea that this should be a very small scope, but it kind of grew from that. And we also wanted to make a game that we could make by our own means, so we didn't need funding or a publisher or anything like that. Fig approached us and asked if we wanted to do it, and we were a little bit hesitant because the other one was not successful. So yes, and back then it was more flat art style that we had.
Maybe I can just add to that. So we chose to go with the 3D art because we come from a background where we use a lot of 3D, but it was also easier for us to sort of work with lighting and shadows that way. So when we are going to add new levels, it will be easy for us to reuse a lot of objects and stuff like that. So it was also with that in mind.
Yeah, and right now we are in closed alpha. And we are set to release quite soon, so let's hope that goes well. I just want to briefly talk about how the project was funded, and it was mainly by our own means, the crowdfunding, and then in total it's about $50,000 as a budget. We have like a revenue split model, so the partners in the game, we made a deal with them so they can like get money and survive, of course, but still. We wanted to get the most out of the money that we have because it's very limited, so they would give a revenue split as well. But probably the real budget is $120,000 if we had to kind of estimate it. And of course we have hats, because who don't want a fancy hat? So this is some of the customization that you can do in the game. We also have cosmetics for your castle. And that's also very easy for us to expand on. It's very like a fun vibe and like a party couch game, so that of course should be the same theme for the hats.
And also taunts that you can tease your friends with.
Yeah, we have a chicken dance right now and a regular dance. So why Nintendo Switch? And when we started developing this game, we saw an opportunity with the Switch because it encourages social game, and we thought this game would be perfect for it. So that's kind of why we also approached Nintendo and pitched the game to get it on Switch. It's very easy to get into. Once you play it, it will only take you like 5 minutes to understand the mechanics and get into the game. And that's one game. So the next game you'll already be ready to kind of roll it out. With that in mind, the Nintendo Switch is also not a saturated market yet. So if you get out on the Switch, there's a possibility that you will actually sell some copies compared to Steam, where right now it can be really hard to get discovered. Yes, so I don't want to talk about all the features yet, because we already talked about a lot of them, but I just wanted to add that our music composer is recording live instruments for the game, and he's doing a really nice job. Yes.
The whole what you heard in the trailer is not part of the final soundtrack. Right now he is composing it, and it's going to be recorded with these really cool classical Baroque instruments. So
yeah, we gave him a lot of creative freedom for that, so it's really going to be exciting. Yes, and that was it. If you have any questions, let us know. And you can try the game downstairs. You can also go to nightoutgame.com, where you can actually pre-order the game.
Thank you.
Gracias a todos. Terminamos este bloque de presentaciones de la mañana. Después de comer vamos a continuar. Empezaremos con la primera sesión, que será a las 4 menos 20. Así que nos vemos en breve. We will see you back again at 20 to 4. So have a nice lunch and see you later.